Hi, boys and girls. This is Grandma Sheilla, and I have a funny story for you today. Our story is titled Chet and the Super Coop Scooper. What a title! Well, Chet was 16, and he was sitting on top of the Davis chicken coop cleaner. Now, that was a three-wheeled vehicle with a little bucket on the front that went just above the ground. Nobody else at that big chicken farm in South Dakota. Do you want to run the Davis? And what they would say is, it's okay, have Chet do it. Well, technically, Chet wasn't quite old enough to be running a piece of machinery like that, but the Davis wasn't real big. It was about half the size of an ordinary tractor. And whenever the manager and the assistant manager would ask one of the other guys, why don't you come do it today? They'd say, no, let Chet do it. He gets a kick out of it. So Chet was the one that actually got to run that Davis chicken poop scooper. Well, it was the time of day to do it. That chicken house was 200 feet long, and it was totally full of chickens. The job that Chet had was to make that go in and scoop up chicken poop. Well, that's part of the reason why nobody else wanted to do that job. Besides it being a gross job, it smelled so bad. But Chet, he got himself, so he knew just what to do. Well, today was no exception. Herman, the assistant manager on that chicken farm, he drove a big full-size tractor with a huge scoop on the front. Now, he and Chet had gotten into a really good rhythm with this job, mostly so they could get done quick. So this morning, Chet had headed for the doorway of that chicken coop. As I say, it was very big. Well, Chet, he saw that big square doorway, and it was kind of dark in there. But he headed for that dark square. Vroom, he went with the Davis. And he took a big, deep breath before he got in that door. And in went the Davis. And he had to adjust his eyes to the darkness in there. But he could see the hens sitting all over the place. He went vroom, and he saw a big pile of chicken manure. Ooh, such stinky business. He took that Davis as fast as he could, and he ran right in to that pile of chicken manure. And the scoop scooped up as much as it could carry. He lifted it so it was just off the ground, and he looked at that little square of sunshine that was the door. And backing as fast as he could, he headed for that square of light. And he went right straight through it. And as soon as he got past the door, remember I said that the Davis had three wheels? Well, the reason for that was he could just spin around. He didn't have to actually turn around. He could just spin around and he would be facing right toward where Herman was with that tractor. And Herman generally had that scoop, that great big scoop, right down close enough for Chet to dump that chicken poop in it. And then he would spin around again and head right back into that chicken coop. Well, while he was in there, Herman would drive that tractor over toward a huge mountain of chicken manure. And he would lift that bucket as high as it would go above the tractor. And the reason for that was so he could dump that chicken manure as high up that mountain of poop as he could. And then he would turn the tractor around and come right back and get in position, waiting for Chet to come out again. Well, on this second or third trip, Chet, he had ran in to that big pile of chicken manure, and today it was sloppy. It had lots of liquid in it, and it was gooey. Some days it was hard and sticky, but today it was like a big slop pile of mud. He ran into it with the Davis, and it immediately scooped up a huge bucket of chicken poop. And then he spun around. He made sure he had plenty on. The less trips they had to do, the better it was. And it was hard to hold your breath all that time. Can't believe that all those chickens could live in that smelly place. But then he started to back that up toward that square of light again. Well, meanwhile, Herman had made his way back to his position to get his scoop full from the Davis. But he got distracted at something. The story doesn't tell what. But their rhythm was such a good rhythm that even a few seconds to a few minutes of not being in the right place at the exact time could be very hazardous. Well, Herman was daydreaming, and suddenly he heard that Davis backing toward him. Vroom, it was coming. And he immediately started lowering that big bucket. But just when Chet backed out, getting ready to spin around, that bucket was at his shoulder level, right in the back of his shoulder. And when he was backing, he backed right in to that big tractor's bucket. And it went boom right into the back of his shoulder. And of course, he was up on the Davis. So what it did was it threw Chet up, up, up in the air. He went. And of course, anything that goes up has to come back down. And down Chet came. Splat! Well, it was a soft landing, and it kept Chet from getting hurt. But there lay Chet in the middle of that mountain of chicken poop. He was buried to his waist in that stinky muck, and he was stunned. He couldn't figure out what had happened. How did he get there? And Herman's eyes were huge as he had watched Chet fly through the air, and his mind was going 100 miles an hour. Did I kill him? Is he broken? He turned off that big tractor and he jumped down and he ran over to that huge mountain of chicken manure. And he said, Chet, are you all right? Did you break any bones? Well, Chet was kind of getting his head back on his shoulders again. And he said, I don't think I'm hurt. Well, then he could see that there was chicken poop running down his face and up here on the forehead. And he thought, oh, I'll just wipe it off, right? Well, he smeared chicken poop all across his face. Well, now that Herman realized that Chet wasn't injured, he looked so funny laying inside of that mountain of manure that he couldn't help it. He started to laugh. Well, Chet, he looked out and he kind of frowned. But then he looked down at himself and he realized that he must have looked horribly silly. So he started laughing right there, half buried in the chicken manure. Well, they both laughed for some time. And I mean, Herman had never laughed so hard in his life. He threw back his head and he just roared. And his hands, he kept slapping his legs. It was so funny. Well, finally, when both of them could contain themselves again, Chet decided he needed to get out of that manure. Well, he tried to pull his legs out. One went up a little ways and it went, but then there was nothing to put his leg back in. It was like he was in quicksand. He knew he needed to get out of there. Finally, he knew he couldn't stand up. So finally, he rolled right out of that mountain of chicken manure onto the solid ground, and there he lay. Well, Herman got really close. How could he help him stand unless he wanted to be covered with that mug? But Chet was thinking about something else. And so was Herman. Chet was thinking about that a monstrous miracle must have happened. If Herman had had that big bucket 12 inches higher, that big metal bucket would have hit Chet right on the base of his head. He could have been killed. Those buckets are hard. They're made out of metal. He could have been paralyzed. That could have broken his spine. his spinal cord, and he would have never been able to walk again. Both Herman and Chet were really silent now. And then Chet said, I must have a guardian angel that has a super duper sense of humor. A guardian angel that had me get there when that bucket was low enough that it would throw me into that manure pile, but it wouldn't kill me. Boys and girls, we each have an angel, and I think sometimes they do have a sense of humor. But it was a very serious matter what almost happened to Chet. We're all very thankful for our guardian angels and the work they do. And even when sometimes they may do something very funny to save us. Now, I'm glad you were here to hear the story about the chicken pooper scooper. Thank you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye, boys and girls.